Hi, gang, and welcome to Behind the Rhinestones. My name is Dinah Dare, and I am going to be chatting to some of your favourite burlesque performers, asking them a bit about how they've found burlesque, of what the sort of hints and tips would have been to the younger self, and basically just getting behind the sparkle and razzle dazzle and finding out a bit more what it's like to be a performer. If you're interested in the future interviews that we're going to do, please do like and subscribe as there's going to be so much more. I'm so happy to say that our very first interviewee today is the wonderful burlesque Barbie of Glasgow, Debbie DeLux. Yeah, so hi Debbie.
Hi.
Thank you so much for agreeing to chat to me today. You are my first guest. So
Oh, thank you.
thanks. I know that we obviously work together quite a lot in Glasgow, but I actually genuinely don't know a lot about how you kind of found burlesque or came into it or whatever. Like, yeah, tell me about your origin story.
Oh God, I think part of that is because it's a little bit controversial now. I don't know if you've seen any of my talking about it, but I started with Club Noir,
Yes.
which you might have heard of, being a Glaswegian. A lot of people in the scene have heard of it that
I
are
actually
old
I
like
think I
me.
I think I went to the very last one. I went to a New Year one.
Oh, I was there, yeah,
Yeah, that
obviously
was like
before. It was, we ended at Hogmanay. I think I always get the years mixed up. I think it might have been either get into 2017 or end of 2017. I can't remember which it was, but either or.
yeah.
Yeah, I started off, and obviously, if anyone doesn't know, that was the at one point the Guinness Book record for the biggest burlesque club in the world. It was, and oh, you went, it was amazing. It
It
was more
was.
of a like, it was a mix of like a club and live music. Oh, it was incredible. So I always felt a little bit spoiled that I started on such a small like from nothing up to just such a big stage, instead of
Yeah.
small stages. I started as what we called Daddy's Darlings, which were basically showgirls. I just was on stage doing a lot of, and it was just girls that were there to look the part and wear the costumes they provided, and I just took it from there really. So it took me a wee while, and then before I knew it, I was a headliner, which was really nice. And then here I am.
I love that you got to start on like big stages. Like it must have been so hard going from that to like the riding room stage, which is our local stage, which is
Yeah.
like
And the thing is, a lot of people used to say to me, like, oh, you're not terrified on that big venue. And I was like, no, it's the opposite because I couldn't see a single person. It was now, I couldn't, there was loads of people, they were all steaming, they'd been there all night, and they were there. It was a totally different dynamic. People weren't all like looking at you. They were all having their own evening and you were on this big stage. So the first time I was on a tiny stage and an audience member was there, I was like, what the fuck? And I felt so aware of everything. Do you know what I mean? So it was much more terrifying. And then also the totally underestimating the room I have in places like riding things like showing up with big props, just be like, hi.
like
I
tiniest
know,
little
I'm just
space
having
in
to
the
move like
world.
this. So it's yeah, totally. So yeah, it got scarier the other way for me. But I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I love that. How did you find going from like being part of this kind of group and doing Club Noir to kind of doing it on your own?
It was terrifying. I'll be
Mm.
honest. It was really scary because I went from having the support of a troupe around me all the time, and it was really supportive. We were really, the thing about Club Noir that was really strange is I wasn't allowed to work anywhere else,
Okay.
which was quite difficult. But it also
Mm.
meant that it was always the same people you were with, and we were family. And one thing about the people, the owners, were that they really wanted, if you hurt that dynamic, you didn't get to continue. So we were
Okay.
all girls that were really close and really supportive of each other and really bigged each other up. So to go from that to not having that support around me was really, really daunting,
Yeah.
and really scary. And I think for a while I was really desperate to try and get that trip thing going again, but it's it's practically impossible when everyone's all over the place and you never know
Yeah.
what's going to happen. So yeah, that was really scary. And also like you were kind of dictated a lot of what you done there. So I kind
Okay.
of started with nothing. We had no we weren't allowed to film, so I had no video footage. I had nothing, So I literally was like back, and I didn't mind that, but I was just like back at square one. Like right now, I have to like, well, obviously pay my dues, of course, and just work out who I am as a performer because I'd never fully got to do that, until then. So I kind of feel like as long as I've been doing it, my career really started after Club Noir.
In your own style, like to me, if I have to describe you to anyone, I say you're like the Barbie of burlesque or burlesque Barbie. Like
Thank
that's
you.
just your vibe. But like
Yeah,
I also know that you do quite a lot of like Halloweeny stuff. You're actually a bit of a goth at heart. Like
yeah.
how did you find what was your sort of style and how would you kind of maybe describe that style?
I know I think people always ask that, and I'm like, I guess the simplest term is neo, like neo. But I feel like my style isn't too far removed from who I am as a person. Like growing up, I was always like the little Barbie goth, like the girl that was in the cat house, but oh, but you're wearing pink and you've got blonde hair. Why are you here?
Yeah.
And um, I feel like I've always loved glamour and old Hollywood so much, and I'm really inspired by that. But I'm also inspired by the alt community, the male community, and being queer, and it's just. And at first, I used to think that I had to pick a lane,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's hard when you're not quite goth enough for the alt performers and not quite like a bit too old. It's always a bit of a strange place to be, but I realised that that's where I shone was when I let both of those influences come together, and yeah, so I wouldn't really know how to describe my style other than like showgirl meets goth girl.
Accurate for what I've seen. Yeah, I'd say that's fair. Especially like you were chatting earlier about like your props. You love a big prop,
Oh, I do
don't
love a
you?
prop. And I've had to contain myself because I'm aware that I can only use them every so often. So there's a lot that I like to do. I like a bit of mess. So I've had to learn to not let my ideas run away with themselves too much and also make them viable to actually travel with as well.
Yeah. My favorite prop of yours, sorry, is probably your cauldron.
That's
But
my
I'm
favourite.
always like, but I'm always like, how the fuck do you travel around with that thing? Like,
It comes into four bits.
all right, okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So it was actually made by the prop maker out of Club Noir, who's still a
Oh,
friend of mine. So we
nice.
traded a cauldron for tattoos, which is the joy of my other job. So yeah, he made it for me, and he's fantastic. Um oh, that's. Do I always think about these things, and I always feel like, can I really be an oracle of advice? um, I think
Everyone's got some sort of advice to give, I think.
I think one thing is learn to bloody sew. Learn to
Yes.
sew a wee bit. Like, come on. Um, and honestly, I just think approach everything with kindness. And if you start to do well, don't get ahead of yourself because you're going to crash back down at some point. We all have peaks and troughs, and we all get a little bit excited. And I think it's good to maintain a little bit of humble. And also, you've always got room to grow, and I think that's something I carry with me in all arts. Is no matter how well you think you're doing, you've always got growth to do in so many ways, and try and hold on to that, even if you think something's fantastic. Like growth is important, and you can get that from supporting each other and having friends in the community. You can grow with each other. So just don't isolate yourself, and remember that there are people out there that are there for you as well, and you're not in this on your own and having to fight, like, because I think a lot of it is people thinking like I've got to almost like push myself forward to get noticed, and it's, yeah, you do in a way, but I think you also have to remember that we're all in this together and we all feel the same, and it's hard and it's easy and at times, and yeah, I think
No,
that's
I
it.
get that. I
But
get
I
that.
don't think I've got a all round oracle of advice that I think works, other than maybe be
Here,
better at getting video footage because I'm terrible.
how do you handle fuck ups on stage?
I think just go with it. Do you know someone, I don't know where I heard this. Well, one thing I did hear from my old boss at Club Noir was she always said, it's not about the mistakes you make, it's about how you handle those mistakes. If you're like, oh my God, I made a mistake, you've taken everyone out of it.
Yep.
So handle it. Either look like you mean it or just get on with it and pretend it didn't happen. The other thing that someone once said to me was, the audience are on your side. They want you to win. And I think we forget that sometimes. Like
Yeah.
they're there for you. They want you to win. They're not watching, they're not at a cabaret show to see you fail. They're there to see you win. And I think if you remember that, they're behind you, and
Yeah.
I think having that in mind helps as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think the thing that always stays in my head and I say to other people is the audience doesn't know what your act is meant to look
Well,
like
that as
either.
well. That as well. They don't know. They absolutely don't
Nope.
know. And what I've realised as well is that I can watch an act and afterwards I only remember the peaks. So see if there's something that wasn't as nice as you hoped it would be, like your glove peel's a bit sloppy or something. No one's going to remember that. They're going to remember the really cool bit. And it's 5 seconds out of 4 or 5 minutes. So people don't remember it as much as you think they did. I've genuinely said to people, "Oh my God, this," and they're like, "What?" And I can tell by their face they genuinely don't know what I'm talking about. So
Yep.
yeah, it's never as bad as you think as well. I think in our heads it's terrible, but it's not.
Yeah. We're artists and also perfectionists.
Yeah, and of course, if you don't beat yourself up for it, then you don't care, which is also a bad thing. So it has to be a little bit of both.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. Other than a performer, you do a little bit of producing.
Yeah.
How have you found that?
In this climate quite hard now. I was,
Yeah.
as I said, I was really lucky. I've got a bit of a background because I ran uh, I studied marketing at uni. That's what I done. I studied fashion
Nice.
marketing at uni. But I also, all through uni and college, I PR'd for club nights, and then I started getting really involved with the people that ran the club nights, and then I started working for a music promoter, a really big one in
Nice.
Glasgow, Triple G Music, who put on all the biggest metal shows.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been round events. Always, I started one club night. Oh, God, 13 years ago, I ran a club night in Glasgow really successfully, right up to my first operation. So I had a lot of background in events, which stood me in good stead. I'm really good at the kind of graphics, social media side of things. So that really was a big help. But it's tough. It's really tough. And there's no denying it's tough. And I think, again, I'm a perfectionist. I want the nights to be special and amazing and perfect. And that's something that's not always going to happen as well. You want the audience. I love seeing people have a good time. And that's always been a big, big thing for me, is watching the audience enjoy it. It makes it worthwhile. But yeah, it's tough. I think it's tough in this climate, especially. No one's denying ticket sales are atrocious. They're really difficult. People don't have money, and you almost feel like you're going, "Oh my God, come spend your money at this show." And there's people who literally are struggling to make ends meet. But at the same time, I think I've always said that in times of sadness around the world, entertainment does make you feel better, but it's not viable for everyone. So it's difficult. You sometimes feel a bit silly when the world's a bit of a mess, but at the same time, you've got to keep trying, because I think people need it more than ever, right now.
An escape. A
And
hundred
we need
percent.
escapism. We need it.
Oh, so much.
Aye. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge just now. Um, is that, and
That's
I've
fair.
yeah,
How have you found? So I know that you obviously co-produced with the lovely Misbehave. How how was co-producing? Do you guys work well together? Was there ever that
perfect,
moment where yeah,
amazingly together, like a dream, and so much so that I think you'd struggle to find two people that just clicked. The reason for that was, as I touched on, I'm an artist as well, so I'm really good at the graphic design side of things, the social media, the running of the night is my strength. She's an amazing choreographer. She's amazing at it. She's also, I always say, she's a professional schmoozer. She's great. She just is brilliant. If I need her to go and win someone over, I send her in because she's very,
Yeah.
very good at it. And we just let each other get on with it.
Mhm.
And it just worked. And we trusted each other's visions to get on with it. She left me to my job, I left her to mine, but we also checked in enough. And it worked so well that I know for a fact that for us to find it, and I loved what she brought to every show, and we helped each other so much.
I really enjoyed your shows. I tried to get to all of them. I think I missed one when you were producing together, but like I really
Yeah,
enjoyed them. I thought they were
I
fun.
know you were always there, and it's appreciated. I think that's what was nice is a lot of the community did support us, which it's hard because I never criticise people for it because sometimes when we perform and work other jobs and the last thing you want to do in your tiny little bit of time to yourself is go to another burlesque show as much as you want to support everyone, I totally get how hard it is. So when people make that extra effort, I really, really appreciate it, but they were fun
You
and
also produced at the Edinburgh Fringe, which is notoriously a nightmare to produce. How did you like? How did you find it? Yeah, like you did it 2 years, right?
I produced 2 years. I've been doing the French since Club Noir, but
Yeah.
I've done full runs for 4 or 5 years now. But I produced for 2 years. I won't be there well, I'll be there, but not producing myself this year because I
No,
need a
you're not.
break. It's tough. It's tough. It's just a slog. Like I always said, it feels like purgatory. Is the only way I can describe it. And it's weird because again, like anything, it peaks and troughs. Like
Yeah.
there's points where you're like, I am having the most fun. Then you get really manic, but you're just so tired and you're pushing so hard. And I think it's a harder place now. The Fringe, as anyone will tell you, it's became so corporate. The
Yep.
council don't help. The money grabbing's disgusting. And so the money grabbing from that side's disgusting. And then on the other side, we have a cost of living crisis. So it's making it a really, really hard place to be, which is why I do free fringe. I'm very pro free fringe
Yep.
um, because I would rather people got to enjoy the arts and were there and people you don't make money at the fringe anyway, not really, not a huge amount, there's no way. And you just have to go in with that mindset. And I think it's lovely. Great for polishing acts, absolutely perfect for it. But yeah,
Yes.
it's just tough. It's exhaustion like I've never known, to be honest. But
So
yeah,
this year you're just
yeah,
sorry.
I'll jump in other people's shows. I always say some of the best and worst times of my life.
100%. Like I like I just do guest spots at the
Yeah,
Fringe for the past few years and I love it. It's so
yeah.
I make no money. I lose
Oh
money
no,
every
yeah,
time. But
100%.
I have so much fun. I always tend to take like an act, as you said, that needs
Yep,
it's maybe a newer act or it just needs or I've changed it and it just needs ran a lot because when you do it 2, 3 times a night
yeah,
over a weekend, like you've got that act down. And it's like I know that being a full-time performer is hard, but I do think what we do as well, like balancing two jobs, is
juggling it. Yeah,
difficult.
you
And both
really
of your
are.
jobs are creative. Do you ever feel like you get like that creative burnout?
Yeah, so much. And it's funny because when I tell people, they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. You get to have two creative jobs. I'm like, yeah, it is amazing. But like, and that time off hasn't existed for years because if I
Mm.
do have time off, it'll be drawing time or it'll be email time or it'll be fixing a costume. There's never a moment where I just sit and watch TV. That doesn't happen. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen. I think that it's terrible. The most I ever relax is a night out, which is crazy because you're still not relaxing. But it's the only time that I take away. Like if I go out for dinner or go out with you guys, that's probably the most I ever take away from working, which again is like has its own burnout issues. So yeah, the burnout happens a lot, but at the same time, I feel really lucky, that I don't do anything that I don't love as well. But yeah, you can't always be creative. So sometimes you're really pushing and just an empty barrel.
Yeah. I mean, I know I have times where I'm like couldn't think of like choreo or a new act or whatever and I just can't function creatively or whatever. So I cannot imagine what it's like also doing that as a day job, mate. Like
No.
that's rough.
Yeah, it is. Which I know it sounds like pure privileged moaning, and it definitely is because I know how lucky I am as well. I do know how lucky I am, but yeah, it takes a lot out of you.
And kind of on that, obviously, as well as your job, you have a life, you have a husband, and you have friends and all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. Like, how do you or do you sort of separate performer you and home you?
yeah, definitely. I'm very lucky that I've got a really, really good group of friends, a really solid group of friends who are from a totally different world. They've no interest in burlesque, really. They've no interest. They're not even, they don't even dress like me. Like most of my friends are all little like moshers, like they're just like cat house people that wear black t-shirts and want to go to the solid like rock bars and
Yep.
drink pints. They're not any interest in glamour or fancy cocktail bars or showgirl life. They're just not interested, which I love it because it's such a separation, and it means that I'm never consumed by those worlds. Same. I don't really hang out with tattooists either, so I'm never consumed by either world, which I love. I really love it, and I think I'm lucky because I know that it's hard to form close friendships when you work in evenings all the time, that aren't part of the evening world.
Yeah. Yeah, it just ends up being more people that are doing the exact same
Yeah,
thing.
totally, totally. And it's fantastic. Like I'm so lucky to have you guys as well, but it's nice to have people that are totally separate from that world. I think it's good for us.
Yeah, because as much as we don't mean to, at the end of the day, even if we're friends, we're technically colleagues, and like
Yeah,
you end up just talking work, even if you don't mean
yeah,
to.
yeah.
So thinking about how the scene is like just now, what would you like to see more of in the current burlesque scene? Not necessarily just in Glasgow, but like just in general.
I think support for each other.
Mm,
That's what I want to see more of. And I also want to see more of open conversations. I think we're trying really hard, especially the past few weeks. I've seen a lot of it, which has been brilliant.
hmm
But I think we really have to be making stands about fair pay, about
Yeah.
fair treatment, about how things should be. And we've tried so many times, but unfortunately, the issue with what we do is like we don't have a workplace where it employs people. So as many new performers can start as what they want, which is fantastic. I've nothing against that. But the issue with that is the code isn't there. And are they going to listen? And are they going to and it's trying to get that in place, I'm very good now with when a venue approaches me if a friend's work there, I'll ask the friend what they quoted them to make sure that I'm not undercutting that friend in any way, to make sure they're not pissing that friend about, and trying to mediate between us, because that has happened before where a venue's went, oh, well, we only pay the performers this, where your fees this. And then I'll ask the performer and it's not true. And they're trying to like play people off.
Yeah.
And even our terms and how we're looked after, like I really wish, I wish I wish there was a more way that it was laid out, but it's not going to happen. There's too many variables in what we do, and
Yeah.
too many variables in who's included and what's included. And don't get me wrong, like that, I'm not saying that like new shows shouldn't have smaller fees. I'm not saying that by any means. I totally appreciate, yeah, door splits can be problematic, but they can also have a place, look at the Fringe. We have to do it at the Fringe. It's just how it is if you're doing free Fringe. But yeah, and I think that would also come from what I'm saying about us all supporting each other and bigging each
Yeah.
other up and looking after each other, as that would come naturally. And I think that shows are suffering right now. And it's created a thought process of what I need to push myself above them. But actually we need to gain new audiences as well. I
Yep.
tattoo people every day that's like, what's burlesque? Where can I see that? And I'm like, why don't you know about this? And if we were all helping each other to pull in new people, we would be
Yep.
creating a new generation of audience, and we're not doing that right now. So that's probably the main things that I'd like to see. But it's going to take a lot of trust in each other to do that, you know. But
Yeah, and I think unfortunately, because we are all solo performers, um, as much as we would like there to not be that, it is competition to get booked. As
yeah,
much as I don't actually view it that way, I'm just like, if I get booked,
no,
great, and if I don't, I don't. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people going for very limited spaces for work.
yeah, especially just now because there's less shows than ever, you know.
And I think that can breed the wrong type of mentality.
Definitely.
And I
And
think that's a scary thing as well.
definitely. And that I think that takes me back to what I'm saying. So the now there's a bit of gatekeeping, which means we're not attracting new audiences at all right now. We're
Yeah.
not. People don't have money, but there are still people with money who are going out. And as I said, I'm lucky enough to meet new people every day who have no idea that this is even that shows are even happening. Where
Yeah.
because people are like, oh, I'd love to go to burlesque. Where can I see that? And I'm like, we're not reaching people, you know, and I do think there could be a lot of helping. And it could also come from the people around us as well. But we all know firsthand that sometimes trying to get the people closest to you to share your stuff and promote you is another
Oh,
challenge, you know.
so
So
hard.
yeah,
So
I think
hard.
it's funny, isn't it? So
Yeah.
yeah, I just think a bit more togetherness is would help everything right now, you know, and let us know that also it's easy to think like it's easy for me to go online and go, oh my god, they're doing really well and I'm not, and it's because again we're scared to speak to each other, whereas we all only put the good things online and we all think everyone's doing better, and when we're all struggling, you know, we're all fighting for slots right now and getting a lot more rejections than maybe we did in the past, and it's just how it is, unfortunately.
And yeah, I mean, we were chatting like before we started recording, we were obviously chatting a bit about how this has been the quietest start to the year
Yeah, yeah,
that
really
either of us have
quiet.
had. Yeah.
And obviously January usually is quite quiet, but February wasn't much better. And February is
No.
usually a pretty decent time for me. And yeah, I had shows, but yeah, I can see the drop off completely. And you can see why people don't want to take the financial risk. It's a lot of money to put on a show, you know, and people don't often realise the amount that can go into it. Like it cost me a lot of money to do my show in Polo Lounge. Um, and I don't really make a lot of money from them.
Yeah.
When I do, I've lost before and I've never had an empty room. So take from
Yeah.
that what you will.
Yeah, I think to be a producer, you have to really love it because you're
Yeah.
not doing it to make money. And I think the people that
No,
are doing it to make money are the ones that are not paying people properly or not having the right conversations.
100%.
Like, yeah.
100%.
And you make such an interesting point about us not attracting new audiences because obviously there's been discourse this week about the
Mhm.
fact that Burlesque the musical is going to the West End.
Yeah,
And I think it's been up in Glasgow before.
it
I think
has.
there's been a
Yeah.
touring. And people go, people buy tickets,
Yeah.
people want to go. So
Yeah.
people, and I know Burlesque the musical is not burlesque, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But
But
people
there's still
obviously
an
want,
opportunity.
there's still an interest. And when
Yeah.
Dita came a few years ago, everyone was there and those tickets
Yeah.
were not cheap.
No, I know. And obviously she's a star and burlesque and musical's a household thing. So yeah, of course. But there's a missed opportunity there as well. And of course people, yeah, we've all the horror stories of someone seeing burlesque and the musical and coming and going, this is not what I expected. But what you don't see is the people who came and went, but I love this. Because how many people have you met that came to burlesque? My mum was one of them and went, oh my God, I love this.
Yeah.
It's not what I thought, but I love it, you know, and I think that's really important because it's so easy to just think about the people who got it wrong. But there's an opportunity for education there. And if someone walks away and doesn't like that, that's okay.
Fucking tech and every fringe, we always have like a fringe channel on our kind of communications, and I'm like, go see this show and this show and this show,
Mhm.
and it's the smaller shows I'm trying to push people to go and check out
Yeah.
to try and get more people interested, but it's hard, and it kind of feels like social media is not working anymore.
No, I it's not very eco-friendly, but I think when it's almost like, do we need to go back to like flyers and being out
Yeah.
in the streets and speaking to people, because
Hmm.
social media does not work anymore, and I came from the flyering days. So as I said, not the most like kind to the environment way to do things, but I do think there's something in that where about being out and speaking to people and interacting. um I think that's missing right now,
Yeah.
because
I
you're
think
just yelling in social media into the void, you know.
I think social media, the algorithm actually works against us because it's just an echo chamber.
Hmm.
So we're
Hmm.
just advertising to each other
Yeah.
who don't have the money all
No,
the time,
all the time. Uh-huh.
or yeah, or just people who are going to be at the shows anyway. We're not reaching those new
Yeah.
audiences, and I don't. You're right, flyering might be the way to go because it works at Edinburgh Fringe.
Yeah, it does. It does. Word of mouth, firing, speaking to people seems to be the best way. And the reason that I used to love PRing wasn't just like handing people flyers. I was good at it because I loved speaking to people. And I think when people, it works at the Fringe, like when people meet you, it's not just about the flyer, it's meeting you and making that connection. Then they want to come. Then they actually want to
Yeah.
have your back and support you because they liked their interaction with you. You were fun. And I think there's something to be said about that, you know, like what we should, like, do we go back old school, go out in like big costumes and just speak to people, you know? Like, and I
Out
think
in our
people would
big
love it.
feathers.
Like just Buchanan Street, like glam, like get some pictures of people. Um, like, is that the way we need to go? And I'm all for it, you know.
Right. So, as well as like performing across the UK, you've performed abroad as well. She's international. Um, like, do you have any advice for people that are maybe looking to get? And I know you're like, I am not the oracle, but like, a lot of people are wanting to go international that maybe haven't been
Mhm.
before. What is your kind of advice for trying to get those bookings?
Do you know, most of my international bookings have came from just people that I've just chatted to. And I think that's it. Like they liked chatting to me. So I think, I honestly think networking, like keep applying. But I think we all apply for things, but I think most of my opportunities in life have came from people who liked me as a person, you know, like talking to me. So I don't think you should be nice to everyone as a motive, but I think you should remember to be nice to everyone, you know, and keep networking, keep yourself out there, like follow people back, see what they're doing, look at their shows, support them, you know, and I think that's the best way, because not only is it good for you to grow as a person, as a performer, to see what everyone else is doing, because what I've found from going to Europe and going even to England is that people are doing things differently in every country as
Yeah.
well. So keeping in touch with what's going on everywhere else is good for you as a performer, and it does help you to get other places as well. So I think opening yourself up to people and opportunities, and as I said, caring about your scene is the best way to expand your
Yeah.
bookings.
I suppose that's where we're talking about the evils of social media, but that's where social media is actually a
Oh,
benefit because you can make,
100%.
yeah, yeah, you can make some
100%.
really interesting connections and
Yeah.
yeah, that sets you up for like opportunities, which is good.
And it also sets you up, making these connections. It gives you friends around the world, which is a lovely thing as well, you know. Like, what a lovely thing to say that you've got all these friends in all these lovely places, you know.
Yeah. No, I love that's one of the things I really like about it. And what you're talking about as well, like seeing one of the things I think can help you grow as a performer is watching performances and working out what you like about it
Yeah.
and being exposed to different types of performers outside of like your home base or whatever is
Mm-hmm.
so interesting because people do things in such a different way.
100%. It just changes so much, and it's amazing to see. And I love, I love watching what people are doing. Like, I love, like, if we took like a simple thing, like say a snake, and seeing what that mean, what that, how that speaks to a person, what they take from that, like what they, or they heard a song and what they done with that song. Like I've heard a song that I've used been used by someone else, and how differently they've approached that and what that said to them, and I just love it, you know. I think it's so interesting, and it ignites your personal passion, I think. Like,
Yeah.
when you see someone, you're like, I love what they're doing. And like you said, it tells you more about yourself as well and what you like and helps you shape who you are.
I
Because
love seeing how creative people are
me too.
personally in this industry. Like some of the ideas people have are mental.
I love it. I love it. I wish I was. Do you know what I love? I love comedy burlesque, and I wish I knew how to do it. I wish I knew, like, I wish that was in me, and I just isn't. But I love to watch it. I love it. I think it's amazing. Like, I could watch it forever, and I just love seeing people's humour come to life on stage. It's incredible. It's one of my favourite things to see.
I think I think I've maybe heard you talk about this before or I've spoken to someone else, but I remember as a kid like being so diehard against the colour pink. I was like,
Yeah,
no,
it
I
was
can't wear the
me.
colour pink. Like it's
Yeah,
so girly. And I was the
yeah.
same. And now I've got like a hot pink dress I love and other things, but I used to be so against that because it was too girly.
It's because yeah, it's me that's had this rant about this. So it comes back to like the use of the word, like people saying you're a pussy if you're weak. It's like that. So it's because we've got in our head that anything overly feminine is weak because
Yep.
society deems that is a weakness. So women don't want to be seen as weak. It's almost like a weakness. It's like, oh, I'm a weak little woman if I like pink. I'm a pussy. Like it's like all these. So women think that they're being more feminist by going against
Yep.
what society's told them makes them weaker as women. So I almost think that me going, well, I unapologetically I'm feminine and I love pink and I'm not weak for that. I'm not less feminist for that. I'm not owned by men or small in society just because I love being feminine. So yeah, it's me that has the colour pink and why women, because it's the only colour I ever hear women say they hate. And I'm like,
Yep.
let's look into why you said that to me. I see it in tattooing all the time. Anything but pink. Why? Never say it
Yeah.
about any other colour ever. And
Yeah.
it's just because, yeah, and it's almost, I hear it all the time as well when people say, I don't like anything girly. I'm not girly. And it's like, women are a spectrum. Women aren't just this or this.
Yep.
We're not just like, oh, I'm girly, therefore I only like, I was like, I like feminine things. I like things that are typically masculine. Like, women aren't just one thing. And to categorize as like that is so sexist as well. So yeah, I refuse. That is my pushback against societies. I'm annoyingly feminine
I
and
love
strong
it.
about it.
I love it. And I think there's an element, just while you're chatting, I'm thinking about for myself. I do think there's an element of burlesque being getting to be super feminine and getting to be glamorous because you're not
Yeah,
like allowed to be glamorous in
no,
the day to day.
yeah,
And then you get to go up on stage pure dripping and jewels and
yeah.
rhinestones and wearing really like corsets and stuff, which, there's certain sects of feminism that are like, oh, corsets are the worst thing ever because they bind you and they're making you into a
Mm-hmm.
body shape that a man wants. And it's like, I don't dress for men.
No, 100. And I think that's what it comes back to again as well. It's like if you do celebrate yourself or love glamour or love dressing up, that people then go, that's for men. And I think it's hilarious that it's almost arrogant that society deems that if I celebrate myself, that it has to be for someone else, and it can't just
Yeah.
be for me. Um, I don't think about it, and I never even consider it. In fact, if anything, I would say the way I cut about is off-putting to men a lot of the time because it's so extreme the other way.
Well, on that note, since you are the burlesque Barbie for me, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on and chatting. This was
Thank
genuinely
you.
so much fun.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed
Um,
it. I'm sorry I could talk forever. I'm terrible.
no, so could I. That's why I'm like, we
You
need
have
to
to cut
stop.
it off.
But thank you for joining me,
Thank you, my
Debbie.
hen. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye.